How to revolve an SVG file. Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to focus mostly on the Revolve tool and plus some other interesting tips. I'm going to work with an SVG file and show you how you actually change the SVG file to work with it. So I have this SVG file. It's a trophy cup design that I found on SVG repo. And here is the thing with SVG. So first off, when we look at this image, it's complete. If I'm going to give it a simple thickness, convert them into 3D, that's quite simple. So this is kind of, I'm just adding thickness over here and the height you want to give it. And you basically have a nice 3D file. However, this is not what I want over here. If you want to make it look like a real cup, not just look, but actually manufacture, kind of make it a real cup. And in that case, it needs to be rounded. And this is where the Revolve tool comes in. The Revolve tool is a tool that can make rounded type of geometry, and it's really helpful for these type of designs. However, when it comes to these type of designs, you have to work with Revolve, you have to work to half a shape. So I want to show you first for a second how Revolve is working, give you an idea so you will understand what I'm going to do over here. Before I do so, I want to show you here some other interesting things that I imported. You can see that the shape matches completely my workspace. It's completely hugging the workspace, both ends completely. And here is the thing. So the default workspace settings in SelfCAD, if you don't make any changes, would be 700. It turns out that this object size is 799. So SelfCAD does not allow to go outside of the workspace. And in many cases throughout the application, it will alert you so, and the behavior is different according to the context, what is best at that use case. And in this case, when you import something, the best thing is just to scale the scene. There's another option, you can scale the object, and actually, in fact, if you're going to make this smaller, it will make it smaller and scale the object. But in my case over here, it increased it from 700 to 799. And what I actually want is, I need a little bit more working space, so I'm going to increase my workspace to 1000. Okay, and basically that's it. So I have here the object. Okay, so now, as I said, I'll first want to show the main concept of, I'm going to hide this away because I want to show the concept of Revolve using a very basic shape. So I'm going to draw a simple circle. So I'm drawing it from the center, and actually Revolve is kind of that works vertically. So I'm going to, I mean, you can do it in this way, but it's much easier. The default way is vertically. So I'm going to rotate it in this side over here, so I have the object over here. Okay, now there's two ways to revolve. I can revolve the entire circle. In that case, look what's going to happen. If I revolve the entire circle, I get a torus. That's basically what I got over here, a donut. So this is kind of, you have the inside hole, and if you look at the image, it's very easy to see because we actually maintain the profile that you can see what's happening. It takes this circle over here, and it's going to kind of extrude and make a shape on a rounded function. Now, the rounded function, it's interesting. I'll show, maybe if you have a chance later to show the pivot tool. It's something similar where it's a function that goes around something. The pivot tool has a preset location. I mean, you can offset it, but by default, it will always rotate around the center of the scene. Revolve tool obviously does not work that way. And it works around some axis that you have to give it. Now, SelfCAD has two modes for Revolve. You can revolve it around a default axis, which in this case, it's about the distance. It makes a distance away from the object. It assumes you want to have a hole, kind of like this, if you want to create something here. So if you look, you can eyeball it approximately. See, if you see the distance between the sides of the circle, you can see that this axis over here is about the same distance over here. However, you can change this, and you can even flip it the other side, which is not a good idea, but you can kind of keep on changing it, and this is how it is. You can even change just one side and give it an angle, give it a different type of stuff. However, there's another way to revolve around half a shape. That's the default way to revolve, when you want to create close profiles. And in that case, you will have to give it an axis to rotate around. So to show that, how it works, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a... actually, by the way, I just want to show you what happened here. I tried to click here to see the details. Actually, you wouldn't see it. Only if you turn on the drawing, or if you turn on one of the tools over here, if you turn on these tools to select them. Otherwise, the wireframe mode is not showing details without something on that needs the details. In the case of anti-drawing is here, but even if anti-drawing, if I turn it off, it will still be off. So I actually still need to turn it on, but I need to activate a tool to show it. But nevertheless, what I'm going to do now here is I'm just going to draw a line connecting over here. And the reason I draw this line is for two reasons. First of all, I want to have this line, I can use it as a rotate around. For that, actually, this does not need to be a part of this object. I can just keep it as a separate line and show it. But the second thing is I want to be able to select this entire thing to clip it off. And this selection face mode, when you deal with profile, it will select an entire circle. So if it's a circle, it selects like until it gets interrupted, a complete cycle. And in this case, it's the complete cycle would be the entire circle. But if I made this over here, it has a juncture over here where it needs to decide to go down or go here, and this is where the cycle completes. So this is a way of easily splitting off. So I'm just clicking delete to delete this piece. Just to show you now, if I click, it will select the entire thing, because now this is a complete cycle. There's no other option how to do it. If you want to select parts of it, you can go to the edge mode and select just parts of it, like kind of select parts. Okay, but for now, I want to actually revolve this. And I'll show you over here, if I leave it like this, the same idea as before without anything, it actually takes this inside line and it makes it flat inside and the outside rounded, so you can revolve that. But if I go revolve around the edge, this is where I can just choose an edge. And in that case, there's another thing where the revolve has a one side, there's a concept of clockwise or counterclockwise, and it rotates it just one side, and this depends just where the object is located on the scene. And if you see these dark colors, the same idea if you see doing in many other videos, backface coloring. This has been implemented before backface coloring was there, so maybe eventually we'll change the same color. But the idea here is it shows a dark color purposely to see that actually it's inverted inside out. So if you see this, you have to flip it basically. And there's no clear rule on it. It just depends how you rotate it, where it's located, because it rotates it only one side and it cannot guess which side you want it. So we basically make it in a way you should be able to see it. As I said, it will probably eventually be change the color to the backface coloring. But nevertheless, if I finalize it like this, you can see we get a closed shape. Now in this particular case, actually, if it's a closed shape, you no longer need this profile. So technically, I can split this off, this profile, and be it completely off, or even delete them because I can draw it in. So I can basically have it two ways. Let's say for now, let's split it off. And I'm going to take this, revolve this shape, and again, I'm going to revolve, and I can decide to revolve around edge, and I can revolve around this edge. So we'll still have the hole because I'm revolving around this edge, or I can actually draw in a thing which is kind of give it an edge over here, even doesn't exist, and this works. Okay, so this is basically the idea about revolve. And now that we understand how revolve works, let's see how we can make this work for this object. So first thing I have over here is I have to remove half of the shape. So I'm going to look at inside over here, and I see this shape has been imported. I haven't touched anything yet to it, but somehow this has created over here a split. I'm not sure why. So there's a lot of ways you can slice this in SelfCAD. You can draw a line over here kind of that will make it intersect and create a to split them, or you can use in the tools, actually there's in the modify there's a cut with plane that can do it. There's a lot of things you can do it, but over here, if I have already this cut, I'm just going to use this, delete this section. Now once this is deleted, I can use the same concept that I can select this entire thing at once, because this is a cycle where the cycle breaks. So using the face selection, face or polygon are the same in this case. So I can delete this entire section over here. Okay, now I may want to give it a little bit more. The cup would be I think too narrow over here. So I'm just going to select these vertices over here and simply move it out a little bit. Okay, so this basically depends on how the design should look like, how you want the design to look. Okay, so now once I'm done with this, I still have to split off this part. So let's see what will happen if I decide not to split it off, just to give you the idea. So I'm going to revolve now, and I'm going to choose around an edge, and I'm going to draw in this edge that it's missing yet. And look what happened over here. So this basically, first of all, it's closed, so I'll have to add the closed. But secondly, it took the entire, it looks like completely distorted, because what happened is that the handle itself becomes part of the object. And what you see over here is the outside, this handle. This handle becomes a part of the entire thing. So the handle needs to be split off. Okay, so how do I split off the handle? So I'll do the same thing. I need to fill in the gap over here and make this a separate section. So I'm going to go over here to draw and simply draw on a line from here to here, I don't need to be perfect because it's a line. It's gonna be hidden almost by touching the cup. So, and I think actually a line is here. I don't need anything around this. Otherwise, if you need more around this, you can use an arc. But nevertheless, once I have this selected, I can now select this section as a separate entity, this entire section, and I can simply split it off. So now it's split off. However, this is actually, I still have a problem. If I isolate this, you'll see this actually has also a problem. I need to close this as well. Now, for the cup, I don't need it, but need it once I'm gonna make this handle as well. So I'm gonna do the same thing over here, and draw over here something to close it. And over here, I may have wanted to use an arc, but yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. Actually, let's use an arc, make it a little bit nicer. So I'll draw in an arc over here, and basically something like this. So okay, I think this looks better, more natural. Okay, so now let's actually hide this away. Actually, let's first I want to rotate them together, so I don't want to lose the orientation, because it's easier to make it once it's rotated. So I'm going to rotate this like this. Okay, so this is how the cup should be, but I need to actually hide away this for a second. Okay, so now once I have this, I'm still not done over here. So technically I can revolve this. If you see, if I'm going to revolve this now, select this and I'm going to revolve it, and I give it, you can always already see the shape of the cup, but it has the inside hole. If I give it, I'm drawing in this edge where this should revolve around over here, and now I need to flip around. So you can see this actually gives me a complete cup. Now I can do it this way and finish, and then use maybe a capsule as the inside to cut out the inside, and use the stitch and scoop to cut it out. But it's much better if you make it yourself, because you want to keep the geometry as nice. I'll show you later that the geometry will come out really nice, and if I make everything, the hole, everything, it's much cleaner. So much better than to make something right than to cut out of it. So actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the inset. I don't know how to draw this smooth. It should be the exact same thickness over here for the inside. So the easiest way is to use the inset, and for that to work properly, I'm actually going to remove these edges as well. So I extended it before, I know, but I think I'm going to remove it, or at least split them off. This I need to remove. The top one I need to remove. So I'm first going to split them off both, and then actually from this one I'm going to delete the top one. So the bottom one I may join back later. Actually, I'm not sure. I'll see later what I'm going to do if I need it. For now, let's hide it away. Okay, so I have only this section over here, and now we're going to use the inset tool, and I'm going to give it the thickness that I want. Let's say I want this to be thickness of 10, the cup thickness. You can see here actually it's made the thickness the outside. I think if I have this will kind of intersect with this object over here. This may be good. But yeah, it will hide kind of over here. I'm going to show you another way actually to make the inset a different, make the inset the opposite side, -10. So it goes in the other direction. And now I'm going to show you later how we're going to make this connection, because it's not touching now. That's how the design was. I don't want to change the design. Design was that this is going in a little bit and this is not, and I'll show you later how I'm going to handle this. So for now, what I did is I inserted the other side, but the problem here is we got all of these inside edges as well. The inside made the perfect design, but we got these inside edges. So we're going to go to geometry clean, and I need a function. I need only one option to remove inner edges. That's all I need, and it removed everything perfectly fine. Okay, now what I need to do here is I need to make this section over here and to go up and close it, this section. So how am I going to do this? So this is basically where I'm going to need to draw something. I'm going to use I can bring this back in, okay, and I can merge this together with this. I have this line. I mean, I can draw it, but why not if I have it already? Let's just merge them together. So this is merged in, removed one vertex over here. This is perfectly fine. Now I need to split over here the same thing. So how am I going to do this? I'm actually going to use the drawing. I think it's the easiest way. I can use it another way. I can kind of take one vertex over here and kind of start dragging it out, or one edge over here, start dragging it out. But yeah, maybe I'll do it this way, or I can use the drawing. So let's go to the move tool and just start dragging this edge like this. Okay, and there's an interesting way. The easiest way is to draw, but just going to show you actually an interesting way how you can do this. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to flatten it. This is not the conventional way of doing it, but just kind of the idea of what you can do over here. Okay, so I'm flattening it like this. And actually what I need here is, I actually don't need this line. I just need it as a guide to be able to draw, because what I need here is to draw in an arc. So this is kind of going to give me the idea, something where to draw an arc, a guide. So I'm going to use this over here, and I'm going to draw an arc from here to here, and kind of something like this to give it the rounded part, as much as rounded I want the inside of the cup to be. Okay, something like that. And now I can delete all of this extra stuff that I don't need, and that's basically it. Okay, so I deleted this, and now I actually can delete this entire section inside also. This entire thing could be deleted. Okay, so this is basically done. Now all I'm left to do is draw in the connection over here to close this up. So now I'm going to go 3D sketch. I just want to show you, by the way, I did this idea here to draw, but I could have done it much easier if I changed the plane. If I add a plane, a back plane, and I can start drawing over here. So this would have been easier, but yeah, just to show you the concept. I sometimes like the flat to play with, flattening tool to play with in drawings, and I'll use it now again. As you can see, I'm drawing this, but I didn't really pay attention. It should be exactly straight. So what I'm going to do here is, again, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use the flatten tool again to give it, make sure it's completely flat. So I'm making it like this, and I can see it's 0, it's flat. Okay, so now I have my basic shape ready. So what I'm going to do now here is go to the revolve again, and now I'm going to revolve around an edge, choose this edge. I don't need to flip anything, and this is perfect. Okay. However, I actually want this to be rounded over here as well, the top to be rounded, thickness over here, top to be rounded. So I'm going to do one last edit to it, and for that I'm going to select this edge on top, and I'm going to go to the fillet. I'm going to add a fillet to it, and again, fillet is like most other tools, work for meshes and for profiles. It works perfectly fine. You actually don't need that much. I think this should be enough. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, this should be nice. We don't want to just overly complicate. Look how many vertices already have. And now what I'm going to do here is make sure it's deselected. Oh, I deselected the mode. Okay, select this and go to revolve and choose to revolve around. Oh, I saw I entered revolve while this is selected, so the only thing that was revolving is this edge. That's not what I need. I'm sorry, my mistake. I need to enter revolve, and I need now to select the edge, what to revolve around. And now somehow I need to flip the normals. And you can see over here we got this rounded. Okay, so let's finalize it. I can play with the amount of details, how smooth this should be. I think, let's say 32 looks really smooth. And look at this, how beautiful this geometry is. So first of all, you can see how many faces I have. It's a relatively detailed mesh. You can see quite nice. And you only have 4,000 faces. This is like ridiculously low poly compared to others I've seen on Thingiverse, similar cups that had like 300,000 faces, 200, 300, or I think the lowest was like 100,000. And the reason here is this is a very important fact actually. And what I said before, you want to keep the topology clean. So this is the concept of creating stuff using polygon modeling, which actually SelfCAD is a polygon modeling app, and Revolve tool, like most other tools, is a polygon modeling. Now, what is the difference? The Loft tool, for example, is actually not a polygon. It's a B-spline type of tool. The difference is what you create. In the Revolve tool, you create something based on the profile. So I can add wherever I want a segment. If I want to cut over here, I can add the vertex to the profile, and you will see reflected the thing over here. So the entire shape gets created exactly following the profile. If you think about in a solid modeling application, you create surfaces first as a kind of a higher level, and then you need something to convert the surface into a mesh. And when you convert the surface into a mesh, there's no guessing, like you can't really convert it automatically. You need to do a tool similar to what I explained with the magic fix, like voxelizations or different type of techniques for triangulation. Actually, it's not voxelization, but different triangulation. But in that case, when you convert automatically a surface like this, a complex surface like this, into a mesh, in order to maintain all of the sharpness and everything else, it needs to simply make the entire mesh really detailed and complex and stuff, and you may end up having, as I said, a few 100,000 faces. So this is where this is really helpful, and yeah, so that's basically the idea. Okay, so now let's move the last thing, something else that I didn't show before, introduction to Revolve, that you can actually revolve sections, just parts of it. So here is another interesting idea where I can extrude that and kind of give it something like this. But if you want this to be rounded, not flat over here, it's much nicer if it's rounded. I can use the Revolve tool to create this as well. So what I'm going to do here is, here I'm going to use the Revolve to automatically revolve. I'm not going to give it an edge where to revolve around, but I'm going to revolve it just a little bit. So I'm revolving it, let's say 10, and SelfCAD will automatically rotate it around this edge over here, which is perfectly fine for this example. And I'm revolving it just a little bit, but you see over here, what's interesting here actually, this starts becoming rounded. It's really nice, but it's only half of it because it revolves only in one direction. As I said before, either clockwise or counterclockwise, only one direction. So first of all, when you have a half a shape, there's an option to keep the fill, the inside or the outside. I'll leave it open because I'm going to add now a second section, and then I'll merge it, and then I'll fill it later on my own. So what I'm doing now here is I'm just taking this one, and now you have a half of it. Okay, so it's easier to see this way. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the mirror tool, and the mirror tool is really helpful and things like that. I'm going to check the option to make a copy, and by default I guess this is the front. You can see it revolves around here, and I just click confirm, and now I select both parts. So I've selected both parts. I can go to merge, combine, merge, and over here what I need here is, there's no interfaces because I didn't choose a fill. So again, the concept is always, don't try to fix something, try to make it right the first time. So why add inside faces if I'm gonna need to remove it? And then I click merge, and here I do need to remove, see 197 vertices were removed, which is where they were joined over here. Okay, now in order to close this, I'm going to use fill polygons, and fill polygon basically will close it. Now the only way I'm able to close this, actually, any of the tools, the extrusion that I showed before, or the automatically fill in the revolve, or fill polygons, all of them is because I closed this part over here in the bottom. If I would leave it open after deleting it, splitting it, actually none of these tools would work. So this is why you have to have a polygon. Okay, so now what I want to do here is I need actually to mirror it over to the other side as well. But before I do that, this is not connected over here. This is what I showed before. This is how the design was. So I can technically move it in, just take the move tool and move it in a little bit, but then it will hide parts over here. This is how the design was. This was actually always in a little bit, or maybe not. If it was a straight line, I made it rounded. So it could be it was not, but over here it's actually already touching, but over here it's not touching. So I can do it a few ways over here. I can choose to, as I said, move it more in, but hide here a little bit. I can use the bending tool and kind of just bend it in a little bit, something like this. And I think this may be a great solution, but again, it may look twisted. It may not look as nice. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use extrusions. I'm going to isolate this for a second, turn back my mesh mode so I can see what's happening here. And I'm going to select here some faces. So we're going to use the face one. This is another thing why this polygon modeling is good, because look at these nice faces. I can use loops. Loops is used a lot in modeling. And if you do some surface-based stuff, this will actually not be loops. It will be a kind of a triangle soup. And then it will be very difficult to select nice regions. So now I can just select this, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to extrude that. Now I don't know how much to extrude it. Let's say make it 5, but once it's extruded, you can anytime select these faces and simply use the move tool because the cut is already in. So whenever you don't know how much to extrude, you just do it a little bit and then you move it. So here you can see actually it looks, it's good. It goes in, actually not. You see it's not really touching enough. So I need to move it in a little bit more. So I'm gonna isolate this again, and I'm going to select these. Now I'm gonna use polygon selection to select these faces, but they're not flat. You see, this is another interesting thing where you can use the not part selection, sorry, you have to increase this. So this is not flat, and then if it's not flat, I'll need to turn it in more one side the other. Actually in this case it's not a problem because the cup is also not flat, but if it is, you can use the flatten tool again and flatten this out. But for now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to move it, and I'm going to move it a little bit and more, and you can anytime change that once you see it's going outside to the other side. Okay, now it looks okay. Yeah, it goes into this mesh over here. and now we have this nice connection over here. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mirror it around the other side as well. So I'm going to use mirror over here, and now we're going to use to the left side or the right side, yeah, the left side. And here's an interesting thing actually. I'm going to snap it to the other side, but this is actually something SelfCAD is going to change. So what I do now is I'm going to snap it to the thing over here, which you may think this is how it works. Let's say click a snap again. If I snap it to this side of the cup, it actually gives me a distance. And the reason here is when you snap, if you hover on it, you can read the message here on top. See, if we hover on it, it tells you magnet offsets the drawing plane to the cursor location. So this actually has been kind of copied the way it works in the 3D drawing, where you want to snap planes and use the same thing. I've actually suggested SelfCAD they make it snap the object. This will be changed relatively soon. So at the time you watch this video, it may be different, but for now, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to snap it to the center of the object, and this is what's going to give me the proper location. So as I said, if you, by the time you watch a video, it's probably going to need to snap it over here because they will change this thing over here. But now what I did here is I snapped it, and we have both sides over here. So what I'm going to do here is always that I like to do before I do a Boolean tool is give it a different texture. And the reason here is because then you can always select them as independent parts. It keeps the different parts. Now I can give it a different color, or in this case I'm just going to give it a different, let's say turn off the wireframe on it and make it a smooth shader. Okay, something like this. And it doesn't matter what I do as long as it gets a different material. And now I'm going to combine them with this. They're going to use union to combine it, and here you go. So now actually this is what I said, that if you go to material section, you see you have 2 materials out of 4 because of these profiles. Actually this is, I think I have only, if I delete the profiles, I probably have only 2 materials on this. So yes, I have 2 materials here, and I can go and select the materials. I can select this entire section as one. So if you decide to color it or whatever, this is kind of going to give you the option to select them easily. And now if you see over here, this is actually another thing where I don't want to go to material but selection, where I can select this entire section and kind of make it look nice. I can decide maybe without a tolerance or with a tolerance, maybe deep selection, and select this section separately and give them color. So you can start playing around with these sections and give them different materials and so on. For now, what I'm actually going to do here is to show you, so the Stitch and Scoop tool actually made them, it didn't change the object only here, but the output was not quads, it's triangles. So we're going to use now the resolution tool and make it resolution 0. This will turn it back into triangles. So let's see what's happening. It's quite a detailed mesh over here, so it took a few seconds. Yeah, so now I have it here. So once I have this, just to show you some interesting stuff again, that you can actually loop select, and actually here you cannot loop select because it gets broken by this thing. So let's loop select only here. If you want to do what I'm doing now to loop select, you would basically have to do it before the Boolean, before it gets broken here, or you need to make them in 2 separate things. Loop select here and then go the other side, loop select, because the handle here breaks the loop. It's the same idea that I showed selection here on profiles, where it kind of looks at a entire section. But what I can do over here, not just loop select here, I can add actually a pattern. So maybe I want to loop select it something like this, and you can change how the pattern looks, how much it selects, how much it removes, and so on. So let's say I want to do something like this and then add some color to it, and you get the idea how you can start actually really playing around with this type of stuff. So yeah, so that's basically it. Interestingly, I think that, yeah, that's a different material now. Okay, so I didn't realize. Yes, okay. So that's basically it. You can start playing with this type of stuff, selecting material based and everything else. But that's it. I hope this was helpful, and this is how you use Revolve. And okay, thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments if you learned something new and if you want me to show anything else. Thank you. Until next time. Bye.